Jenkins.
Here.
Harden.
Here.
Vaughn.
Here.
McKinley.
Here.
Pearl. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing that we have on our agenda is section 1, consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it. Call it.
Jenkins.
Yes.
Harden.
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
McKinley.
Yes.
Motion carried.
With no unfinished business, we move to section 3, new business.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 933, annexing certain territory to the city of Farmer City, DeWitt County, Illinois.
I'll second. Discussion.
In this, I did notify the taxing bodies there again, as I explained there in the city manager's report. There isn't really any change because it's already within their jurisdictions, so there would be no effect on them. And the reasoning for this, to bring it into the city limits: one, we own the property; two, this will enable us to apply for grants for any future projects out there.
Any further discussion?
Sounds good.
Call it.
Harden.
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
McKinley.
Yes.
Jenkins.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Let's move to section 4, other items, city manager's report.
A couple different things. One thing is that there's been a lot of discussion for quite a while about a pedestrian bridge to go to South Park, and I've gone around and I've looked at a couple different ones. I measured the bridge on the county highway. The deck itself measures about 147 feet. I went and measured over at Mahomet. They have an excellent pedestrian bridge over there. Here's some photos along Route 150. And it measures 163 feet. I talked to the finance chairperson at the village of Mahomet. She said that when they had that particular one built, it cost the village $300,000. Now, if you would like, and if I have the council's endorsement, then I would proceed to try to get a DNR grant. They will issue grants up to $200,000 towards things such as that pedestrian crossing. What we could possibly do, if the council's in agreement on it, is to build a sidewalk along the west side of the county highway down in that low pasture, come down from Olive with a new walk, and then turn, when you get down near the bridge, turn and get away from that bridge in case there's any future construction. You wouldn't want to invest in this and then DeWitt County Highway come through in 4 or 5 years, even though they don't have any plans yet, they say, and want to start building a new bridge across Salt Creek, and our new pedestrian bridge would be in the way. There again, a couple years back, this was right at $300,000. Sidewalk, you might be looking at $35,000, $40,000. So either way you go, it's going to be an expensive project. But you know, if you're going to put up the new playground equipment, which is sitting in storage, and as much as that park is used out there, it would obviously be a step in the right direction. If you go back to cold weather, I tried to get DeWitt County Highway to put up some signs out there on that bridge. For some reason, they don't want to proceed and do that. They say they have other projects that they have to prioritize before they can come up here and put up signs. The city offered to pay for the signs. We offered to install the signs under their guidance, and they still didn't want to go along with that. So those were just warning the motorist signs that kids would be on there with bicycles and stuff. So, but that's one thing that, there again, I'd like to start working on it. If that's an avenue you'd like me to try. There is a deadline at the end of March. So, other than that, another project would be up in front of the Schneider building. If you go up there like during this past snow, and I know we don't get big snows like that very often, but in front of the Schneider school building, the parking up there is atrocious. If you look on the west side, only about 8 vehicles can park in there safely. That's parallel parking. That's a 66-foot street. If we cut that street back approximately 8 foot, then put in a new 3-foot sidewalk to replace the sidewalk that's there, you could literally have 14 to 15 angle parking spots in there. So you would almost double that. That could be done under the MFT program. Now there again, the MFT program is going to start being discussed here soon, and we're not going to meet but once a month here for a month or two, so I'm bringing this up now. If that is something that you think would be worthy of throwing in the MFT program, you could probably do that for somewhere around $35,000. Nobody's saying anything, so I'm not knowing if I'm going to proceed on any of these, but
I like both projects.
I do too.
I think they're both great ideas.
Is that what you need a consensus?
I just like to get a little feedback
Yeah.
because when we start sitting down, Mac, and we go over this MFT thing, then we bring it to you for final approval. And during that, unless you say, hey, we'd like to have this ditch cut, or we think this street needs to be oiled, we sit down and we do this MFT program, and it's ready to go for your blessing. It's already got a lot of engineering and costs involved in it. So, if we know now, yeah, we'd kind of like to look at that, or no, don't go that way. And I do have a meeting Wednesday, Thursday with Susan Wilson up there and the school staff. We're going to go out there and look at that angle parking and see what they think. Because there again, we may encroach upon the school by 3 or 4 feet. So we want to know that, they're good with it.
So basically, the existing sidewalk will be taken out
Yes.
and moved farther west?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the typical parking spots out there is right at 14 foot long. If you look at parallel parking, you're looking about 8 feet. So you can see that you're not going to have to move it back a lot to get the angle situated. Then the 3.5 foot sidewalk, whatever it ends up being. But it's going to open that street up. It'll be safer for the kids up there because, you got kids running around. It's a very narrow situation. They're getting not a lot of parking.
Well, it'd make it the same as what it's the high school.
Yes,
The high school's diagonal, so.
right, right. And that block in front of the high school appears to be a lot more open because of that angle parking.
I'm
So,
wondering if we couldn't kind of do the same thing at the high school too, moving that sidewalk a little farther west, because once you get those big trucks in there,
mhm.
club cabs, extended cabs, and then it'd be the same all the way.
Be something to look at. Get some measurements and see. What I did is I measured the area up in front of the Schneider building. Then I came down and I measured some blocks here on Main Street to get some comparisons. Kind of did it the easy way. Counted the parking stalls real quick for that. But keep in mind, people are wanting the angles changed up here, so it would change that up there some too. You might gain a stall or you might lose a stall. I don't know. So
What you guys' thoughts on it? As far as Schneider, I think it's a definite. But then the high school, if you remember the high school sidewalk up there, it's only about that wide. And then by the time you get a bumper hanging over it, you don't have a sidewalk.
yeah, there literally isn't any sidewalk in front of the high school.
No, when you get carpool up there is none.
Yeah, I'd like to see cost on that because that would be a nice to have in my opinion, but in front of Schneider is a must have.
Yeah.
Dropping my kids off, picking them up. People almost get hit out trying to get your door open stuff. So
The high school would be a wish list. It'd be nice.
And
I'd like
I
to see
would
our
almost-
MFT priority list too.
I would almost think that even in front of the Schneider, we should be able to use some Clark Foundation money for the sidewalk as well, and incorporate that with MFT, because I don't know that it doesn't say that you can't use money like it out of the MFT funds and then get money from them. So, okay, well then I'll meet with Susan and see if the school's even interested in doing it, since we would encroach upon them and kind of go from there. A couple other things is, as I was going through some old books in here and doing some house cleaning the other day, I saw a 1992 study about the condition of Main Street and kind of the blighted look that it had in 1992. And, we went through the 175th, and some people painted their stores and spruced it up a little bit. But back then, there was some talk about doing an actual streetscape project. There was some infrastructure money set aside in the TIF program, and there again, if we don't use that money for infrastructure, then at the end of TIF, then we'll have to surrender that money. So I didn't know if you want to possibly form some type of a committee with a couple of business people on Main Street, get some feedback about a streetscape program. That could be, you wouldn't have to get overly elaborate, but you could possibly buy some picnic benches, maybe do some curb cuts, plant some more ornamental trees if you want to go that route. It would be a way to spruce up Main Street. Some towns, even
Deal
though
with
they
a
have
chamber, is that?
whoever, and they wouldn't have to be a chamber member, but just some business people on Main Street. So, now there again, because that TIF is going to expire at the end of here of 2014, so, if it's something we want to do, and we could get that money designated for that, specifically for that, before it expires.
Yeah, anything we can do to continue to improve the look of the town, I'm all for.
And then the last thing is the slough. Now we're trying to get permit to get the slough cleaned out, and I received a letter from DNR. We had sent some info from Farnsworth to DNR, hoping that it would be enough information that they would grant us a permit. Well, obviously not. Now they want hydraulic tests ran on that, a hydraulic study, because they're under the belief now that if it is cleaned out from the railroad trestle to High Street, that'll cause downstream flooding. That comes with an engineering cost of $15,000. So, do you want to proceed and have Farnsworth perform all that legwork? Because there's a possibility that DNR could say no after that information is given to them. So it's kind of a flip of a coin. You spend the $15,000, give DNR the information, hope DNR gives you the permit.
If that were a drainage district, would it be a bit different?
I'm sorry,
If it was a drainage district, would it be any different?
I don't know. I don't know. And I did talk to Ralph King about, and he had a little bit of information about the drainage district that had gone defunct years ago. He didn't know if since there was one back a long time ago, if it would be easier to get it regenerated and get it
One
started
had gone
again.
defunct. Which one had gone defunct?
I forget what he had, it had a name for it. He had found some paperwork on it.
Where did you find it at? Anybody ever talked to?
I'm not sure, Willard, because he was telling me this when we were down at Subway in lunch line.
Because I've never heard of that, was a drainage district.
Yeah, he said he had heard, and he had some paperwork.
Well, if it's, maybe if it was, maybe it could be reactivated without a whole lot of effort. If that's the case, then that's a better deal. But I would think.
Doesn't the township, if it's a district like that,
I don't know how it would work. I really don't. You would tax whoever. The drainage district would be a tax every year. You might tax for a period of time, and then you would back off. And then if you started doing anything, then you probably tax again. You'd use the money, and then you would bond for it. I guess you would borrow against the district, and then you'd come back and tax for it. You had your things paid off and all. And it wouldn't be a whole lot.
If you look on
And
anybody.
who it all would affect too. It would affect, in my eyes, it affects everybody in town. So everybody in town would contribute. It would affect up north that. So they would contribute to it. This whole thing is what drains into that. It would be, I would think it would be taxed also. That's just my,
how far is that railroad trestle out of that?
Right there behind the elevator.
Oh, okay.
see, it's right there. And then that's where the creek really starts. That's where it really starts, is right there. You start seeing the water, depth and everything, it comes back.
I think it'd be wise to have his question answered prior to us making a decision about whether or not to have a $15,000 flip of the coin.
I would really like to see this, if the drainage district's there, if it can be reactivated, let's do it and get the thing cleaned up. There's one thing that needs to be taken care of. Really, it's, the West Side Drainage Project, to me, is the best thing that's ever happened in this town. It made such a tremendous difference. That creek's not near as taxed as it used to be. You know, I grew up a block away from that and played in that creek, you know, growing up, and I've seen how the thing can come out and how it can be a mess. We've had some rains that's really tested since that drainage district's been put, or that West Side Drainage Project has been put in. It's just not taxed near what it used to be, and that's great for the town. Makes a big difference. But a lot of things, the creek was used as any natural drainage ditch that goes through an area is, it's tiled into. There's tile, you get these houses along Allen Street, they would have floor drains that probably go down into it. At one time, there was sewage that went into it. That's just the way they did things. And then all along here and everything, and down John Street, there was a gate down there at one time, and they diverted the water off and took it down John Street versus letting it go through
We
town.
found that gate when the new bridge went in.
And so they, if they had heavy rain, they would divert that off and go down John Street. That's a huge tile that's down through, it goes down John Street, goes to the creek, and that's how they would take the water out.
Well, you're looking at, the last that I had talked with Marvin Goebel and Kyle Coughlin. Kyle's kind of the big backer on this, and some of the other farmers. You're looking at not only now this 15,000 for engineering, if that ends up having to go that route, somewhere around 8,000 to 9,000 out of pocket that everybody's going to have to up the ante to cover the cost. The farmers are covering the other 50% roughly. So, you know, and I've kept Susan Wilson involved in this as far as she knows. She knows about this and everything, and that the original thought process and trying to get that permit was turned down. So, but the school hasn't said what they'll chip in. Of course, right now they don't know what the actual cost will be. ADM has said that they will chip in, but they've never stepped up to the plate with some type of a pledge either. So,
Can we budget it where we're not counting on their assistance?
so you're saying $25,000?
Can we get that budgeted in some way, or?
Well, I mean, when we crunch numbers, you can see if.
For that, if you wanted to, sure.
But because it needs to be done.
We could do this. We could do this if that's what you wanted to do. You know,
Well,
we
you
could
have to
also
spend the
look and see.
15,000 first. You
How-
have to spend 15,000
That's
first to
correct.
see if you can even do it.
That's-
And that's where you're saying it's a flip of the coin, because they're saying that what's gonna happen is it's gonna be problematic, and we have to spend $15,000 to prove something they're saying that probably will not be able to be done.
We have to spend the 15,000 for them to determine if it's gonna cause the dump.
And what?
And I can see why it will cause downstream flooding because if you look downstream at the condition that the rest of that slough is in,
That's
it's obviously gonna cause flooding.
It's gotten worse over the years. It used to be, didn't have the grass in for one thing. Of course, it got cleaned out one time. Father Monson kind of headed that thing up about 25, 30 years ago, and where, you know, when people let us onto the ground, they could come in there and clean tires out and everything else, and got thrown into the creek. But it's changed a lot over the years.
I think if that's what the 15,000, because we're gonna have to go all the way through town to see what's there. I mean, we got an apartment down here on the corner that we don't, and it's sitting real close to water.
It never has. It
Yeah.
never has, Mac. That's not the problem area. And the problem area William Street used to flood. It'd flood for a block. But I've never seen that down there ever flood.
Yeah, I haven't
68
either.
maybe, but that'd be about the only time.
Eddie Gardner's house, we always had to get Eddie Gardner out there.
Yeah, that was another problem down there. But William Street and that part of High Street was always probably the worst part of it, as ever flooding goes.
If you get all this
That's why
cleaned
Christmas
out,
house is bad, because
down
the water's
the next railroad trestle on down, that's bad back in through there. So, yeah, what you're doing is you're just moving the issue on down. You'll help those people in their houses up there. And unfortunately, there's no housing down in through there that it may affect, but I would assume it will dump it off into the country club like it does now anyway.
Well, the country club is even better because they've improved. They've put a bridge in
Put a
that
new
lets
bridge
the water,
in not too long ago.
and lets the water go through and doesn't block it back and everything, which has made a difference. It all depends what comes down from the north too, as far as whether that, but it doesn't flood like it used to.
Well, back behind, actually, I think behind our city building down there,
Yeah, that's bad down
that
there.
can't be too good. It
No.
doesn't look too good.
It's not.
And Bill Jones was cleaned out behind his. But if you look at the country club curve on both sides, of course, that's owned by the country club. And that one side definitely needs cleaned out. Now, Bill Jones has cleaned some of his out, and then you get behind the city building, and yes, it's in bad shape again. Back over towards Richmond's and that railroad trestle.
Yep,
That's where it's bad.
that might be where our flooding occurs if everything else is, I don't know.
And it needs, back in there, it needs to be dug out, cleaned up, get the trees out of there and everything. Get it deeper and get it more of a slope of the bank and everything, so.
I'll get back with Ralph and I'll get the answer on the name of that drainage district, because he did have some
Find out,
paperwork
you know,
on
when
it.
it was created, what happened to it, find out as much as you can.
Yeah, might have to go to the courthouse over here to the library and look around and do some digging. I've had a couple different, the last thing is I've had a couple different meetings with the gentleman who wants to come to town with the pharmacy, and we had one scheduled during this snowstorm, and as of today, now I have one scheduled for the 22nd. So the gentleman's going to come to town, look at a couple different buildings, and really look at the current Casey's building, because he's got his eyes set on that one as far as because of the drive-up window that he said you have to have for a pharmacy. So that's going on, and other than that, and there were some notes on Facebook that Sandy had told me people were complaining about the dirty water. If any of you had asked, the aerator out at the water treatment plant had froze up, and so therefore the old methane gas that used to be in the water was back in the water. That wasn't being alleviated. During the super cold weather, the water tower froze up, some switching had gone bad. That has since, new switches have been installed. They have to be programmed tomorrow, and other than that, the guys did a tremendous job removing the snow during the snowstorm.
Yes, it did, pass that along.
Any questions to the city manager's report? City manager? Any non-agenda items in other business?
I guess I do have something else. I cleaned out Brownie's building, I see on here. Was there any pictures or anything up in there? Did you find something like that?
Pictures?
Pictures.
There was just little reproduction postcards, but everything was water damaged because there for years there wasn't any roof. Other than that, is that what you mean? Like,
I've heard about something about pictures.
now, but other than that, everything, like I said, everything was all wet and ruined.
I'll attest it was bad.
Very bad.
Bad.
Any non-agenda items, other business? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Call it.
Horn,
Yes.
McKinley,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Harden,
Yes.
motion carries.
Meeting adjourned.